guys, today I'm looking at Vidia's Shadow by Paul Theroux. This book is about the 32-year friendship between these two writers and the subsequent break in that friendship. This book was published not too long after that friendship broke apart, 1998 or so. And I remember reading in the New Yorker in the late 90s. I think it was an exchange of letters between these two writers, and back then they mentioned the breakup of that friendship, and then this book came out not too long after that. And I was thinking, wow, this is going to be like a tell-all memoir type of book, kind of like books about J.D. Salinger or Philip Roth, but it really didn't turn out to be the case. This was more of an appreciation of the friendship between these two writers, and it's although it's really written more in adulation of Naipaul and what Naipaul has done for Theroux. They met in 1966 in Uganda, where Theroux was a teacher and Naipaul was visiting as faculty, and they took to each other right away. Theroux knew Naipaul. He was getting recognized as being a writer of some import, won a couple of awards. Theroux at that point was not very well known as a writer. He was just starting out. He's 23 or 24 at the time. Naipaul was 9 years older, although Naipaul was more like an uncle or like a father figure type, just from his range of knowledge and wisdom. Theroux was working on his first novel, maybe published some short stories, some poetry, working on an essay. Naipaul is one of those writers, you hear about good writers having good BS detectors. Well, V.S. Naipaul did have a good BS detector ever since he was little. In fact, he could sense vibrations, and he didn't really want to spend time with people or situations that he considered inferior to himself, which unfortunately was like 99% of the case. But he did make an exception for Paul and encouraged him, and his approbations meant everything to Theroux when he was developing as a writer. And you kind of think maybe there was some bidirectionality in this relationship. Just the protege-mentor relationship itself is something that's very sacred, especially between two writers. Writing is their religion, and maybe even stronger than like a matrimonial bond or like a blood bond between these two. They kept in touch. They left Africa, each of them, and then went on to other countries, different life situations, but over like 3 decades they kept in touch through correspondence and would run into each other. Theroux became a very prolific writer. He was known for his travel books, but he was also a novelist and may have even achieved some more financial success than Naipaul. But Naipaul was always regarded, I think, as a notch or two above pretty much every other writer out there. Eventually won the Nobel Prize. But yeah, between these two writers, the remembrance here is very candid. He doesn't hold back, and I think Naipaul appreciated that. That's maybe something he picked up from Naipaul. Always write about the truth, write about horrific situations from a position of strength. I wouldn't really say Theroux's position in this book is a position of strength, because it was written so soon after that rift. And he was using this, I think, as a cathartic experience, because that relationship meant so much to him. We don't really know what it meant to Naipaul. I mean, maybe Naipaul had other proteges everywhere, and which he could kind of utilize. But I don't think there's any other protege out there that became as successful as Theroux. And he did like marvel, or maybe marvel and appreciated some of Theroux's success. He may have been influenced and encouraged by Theroux, got encouraged to write about topics such as Africa, the third world, so forth. Theroux is a very adventurous writer. He's not an armchair writer by any stretch. And Theroux does write kind of shockingly about Naipaul's first wife, Pat, which is a person that I think he admired. He may have, he was attracted to her as well. Nothing developed from that, though. But she was a very long-suffering person, just basically life support for Naipaul, and subject to Naipaul's chauvinism, and he made her cry all the time. Theroux felt sympathy for her, but they were all very close for decades. And then she eventually had health issues and succumbed to cancer. But after that, Naipaul married very quickly after that, his second wife. 2 months after, I think 2 days after his first wife died, the second wife moved in. And Theroux was thrown by that. I think we're kind of getting into spoiler territory here, but Theroux was kind of thrown by that, and he had a heated exchange of letters between that second wife. She first wrote to him kind of provocatively, and he may have overstepped his the boundary that of that new marriage, and you wonder why he would be so daft as to do that. But maybe that's because he felt so emotionally invested in this relationship that he might have taken part of it for granted and not really respected that. But you can see how Naipaul, he's very easy to cut people out of his life. He calls that just cutting them. There's a funny situation where he's at a party, and the writer Kingsley Amis comes up to him and he's like, "Hey, it's good old V.S." And Naipaul is just like, he's drunk, he's sad. One wonders at his accomplishment. And then he just straight up ignores him later on. He just cuts people so easily. And you can see how he would be in a position to do that with Theroux after, after being married and having that kind of argument between Theroux and his wife. It's not hard to sway someone like him into the new wife's corner, I'd imagine. And the famous situation that occurred, on their last meeting, Naipaul was like a little bit cool towards Theroux, like the last year or so of their friendship, and then he randomly ran into Naipaul like on the street in London one day, and he was like, "Hey, Vidia, what's going on? Do we have anything we need to discuss?" And Paul just wanted to get away, you can tell, and he just said, "Well, take it on the chin and move on." And that was like a punch to the chest for Theroux. And then immediately he went and started writing this book to purge the emotions. And but I don't know, you could maybe read it in a different way, the interpretation of take it on the chin and move on. Maybe Naipaul was also including himself. He was saying like, we should both take it on the chin and move on. This is just a situation that life has dealt us. I'm in this new marriage, and I have certain alliances now, and we have to respect that. But unfortunately they just kind of broke apart, and it was years before they saw each other again, just again randomly at a literary festival. Like Theroux saw Naipaul across the room, and he was like, "Oh, I don't know if I should go say hi to Naipaul. I don't really want to." And like one of his writer friends was like, "Well, life is short, you should go say hi." So he does go and says hi to Naipaul and his wife, and they were happy to see him. They were saying how they missed him, and it turned out to be a good experience. And I think they met again later, a couple years, at another literary festival. At this point, Naipaul is like, kind of old and maybe suffering from Parkinson's or something like that. But it kind of turned out happy in the end. But this is a really good, intimate look at their friendship. A very overall adulating work towards Naipaul. Although he does go on a screed at the very end, which I think is over the top. It's very unnecessary because of what he outlines about Naipaul throughout the book leading up to it. I think that's just him venting, and hopefully it's just understandable, the kind of emotions that he's feeling. But I'm interested in going back and checking out the early work of Naipaul and the early work of Theroux, and maybe interleaving the novels together just to see like how they play off each other, the kind of influences. Might not really see the influence on the page itself, but maybe in some of the topics. But this was a really good, really entertaining read. Vidia's Shadow by Theroux.